Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Brothers-in-law. I'm Corey, and tonight I'm joined by my brother from another mother, Mr. Michael Bradley. For those of you who are new to our channel, Mike and I are both former law enforcement officers. I was a Virginia State Trooper for 7 years here in the great state of Virginia, and Mike is a retired 26 veteran out of Pleasanton, California. And both Mike and I are prior military as well. I retired from the United States Navy, 21 years of service, and Mike served our country in the United States Armies for 6 years. So we'd like to welcome everybody to the show tonight. We are the Brothers-in-law. We're talking about police-involved activities that occurred throughout the country that involved justified and unjustified shootings, and we give you our perspective on what a reasonable officer should do or have done in those type of situations. A lot of times, Mike and I have been in a lot of different situations, but I can always say that we never had to fire our service weapon, and hey, that's a blessing. So welcome everybody. Welcome, Mike. What's going on, my brother?
No, not much. Good to be back. We got a really good show. It should spark a lot of questions from the viewers on this one, because it's one of those where should I or shouldn't I? You know what I'm saying? Or will you get in trouble for not doing it, or will you get in trouble for doing it? You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those topics, that you got. I hope our viewers will enjoy it and give us some comments and questions. Hey, Tone, I see you. I see you, Stacee. Thanks for joining us. We're gonna get into this.
Yeah. So what we're talking about tonight is the incident that occurred last month, September 10th, back in Willoughby, Ohio, involving a female officer who was getting ready to conduct a traffic stop. Well, she did conduct a traffic stop, but then it ended up turning south. And you raised a good point, Mike. I know I've been asked in the past, when I was a trooper, if they would get in trouble if they assisted an officer in helping them detaining a person. And we'll get into that. We'll give you our points of view, what we think about it. There is that Good Samaritan so-called law that you won't be held liable for certain things, but it's all going to boil down to your self-conscious and your capabilities as a citizen on what you feel comfortable with doing. So we'll get into it. You'll hear our points of views on this, and Mike and I both have a story that we were both involved in, where citizens have jumped in to assist us. And we'll share those stories towards the end. So this is a very short video. Again, this occurred back in September 10th in Willoughby, Ohio, with Willoughby police officers. Female officer conducted a traffic stop. The guy was driving at a high rate of speed. He was doing 57 in a 35 mile per hour speed zone. She got him stopped. That wasn't the problem, but it was his attitude afterwards, and then things went south from that point. So without further ado, and like Mike said, if you got questions, please hit us up. Mike, I'm sorry, Tony and Stacey and Goat be jumping on here in a little bit. I know all y'all got a lot of good questions. This is a good discussion. So please ask your questions. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into this.
All right.
And there's a little profanity in here too, so be aware.
Well, radio traffic stop.
Can you hear, Mike?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Lost Nation in the airport with Tom, Henry, Ocean, Robert, Edward, 1.
Hello. I'm Officer Willoughby Police Department. The reason why I'm stopping you is speed. 57 and a 35. You're going 57 and a 35, sir. You have your driver's license, proof of insurance. Why are you getting out of the car, sir?
Red flag right there.
Yeah.
12 radio to
Red flag.
vehicle.
Never get out of the vehicle like that, folks.
Have a seat on the ground. Have a seat.
I'm not sitting. I'm not sitting.
Back off.
Number 2,
Back
red
off.
flag.
I'm not sitting, mother.
We're
Here
gonna
we go.
Put your hands behind your back.
I'm not.
I will tase you, sir. Touch the vehicle. Put your hands on the fucking vehicle now.
What the? Son of a bitch.
Radio semi-unit.
This is just a random citizen who saw the fight, thought he'd get involved.
Fucking ground.
Knock it off, man. Knock it off now. Get your arm behind it.
Put your arm behind your back. Get your cuffs. Get your cuffs.
Shut up.
You don't do that to a woman. Do you understand me? Fuck or not, you don't do that to a woman.
Right, get money.
Take it down.
Hey, Jesus, love you. I see you.
All right.
You good up here.
Male's detained at this time. Slide.
Those are all random citizens, folks, who decide to help her out.
Yeah. So, what do you think? Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome Katrina. Welcome Jesus Love You.
I even got a couple of questions. Do you think he would have tried to fight her if she was a male? Do you think he felt more inclined to fight her because she was a female officer? Some people would ask that question. You know what I'm saying?
I do. And I'm not trying to be chauvinistic, but I think he saw that he had the advantage because she was a woman. He was pissed off because he got pulled over. Would he have tried that if me or you, Mike, had walked up to him like that? Probably not, because he would have known. Like, you know what I'm saying? Had nothing to do about race. It's a simple fact that our presence, our tone of voice, that voice of command, that voice of authority would have probably like, all right, I'm not gonna try these dudes here, right? He saw the woman and she was, very well spoken, very nice demeanor to herself, no attitude, and he saw the size difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think she did everything she needed to do up until the point where she knew he was going to be confrontational. And at that point, I think she properly changed her tone and her demeanor. She sounded enforceable enough. Put your hands on the car or come over to the car. So, she knew right away them red flags that he was showing that this wasn't going to go. He wasn't going to go with the program. And she had to show him that she meant business.
Right. Katrina, I have Mike and I are going to share our stories about
that's a good question, Katrina.
Here in a second, and it'll answer it.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that in just a minute. That's a good question, though.
Good question. Good question. Thank you for asking. It doesn't matter. One note that I wrote down is that it doesn't matter as an officer who you pull over or the age difference between you and that citizen that you're pulling over. You as the officer always have to be ready, right? I know it's easy for an officer sometimes, y'all, to get a little complacent, right? They're humans too, right? They get a little bit complacent. I know there have been times that I pulled over elderly people and they're like, my guard comes down a little bit. They're 70 plus years old. They're not going to really be a threat to you. But you can see it doesn't matter. We don't know what's going on inside this old man's head that caused him to act the way he did. But as an officer, you always have to be on the ready. And this is sometimes too why, it may seem some officers are always little on edge, if you will. But they have to keep the guards up, because this is going to happen, and it doesn't matter how old they are. If you're gonna come at me sideways, you're gonna get handled sideways. I'm gonna put it on you. So it was really no need for him to get. And Mike, what'd you say in the beginning? What was the first red flag for you?
Him getting out of the car. Folks never get out of the car like that, especially not even saying I'm on, just jumping out the car like that. As an officer, I don't know what you're doing by getting out of the car, and then you're going into the back seat of your car. Yeah, I'm asking you for your license and registration and stuff. If you don't have it readily available, just tell me where it's at, okay? Don't take it upon yourself to get out of the car and go in the back seat and retrieve it, because I don't know, as an officer, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know that you're getting out to retrieve your thing, your license. Most people just have it simply either in their wallet or in their glove box. They don't have it in the back seat, okay? But if you do, you never want to just jump out the car and go in the back seat all willy-nilly, start grabbing stuff. Keep in mind, folks, officers are always thinking officer safety, okay? We can't let your free movement, we can't let you freely move about without having any kind of control over your movements, okay? Right. When we come in contact with you, we're trying to be safe, all right? That's the first red flag.
Yeah, I agree, because you let him get out the car like that and go to the back seat. It could have been a gun back there that he could have retrieved, and I don't think she was. And if he did have a gun, she wasn't in a position to really already to defend herself, because she allowed him to get to that car or that back door and open it. I'd have been right on him right quick and had him jammed up on the car. Hey man, what the hell are you doing? Now this is not how I was going to do. I would probably went on ahead and put him in cuffs right then at that point, Mike, because you've already shown me that you're going to do what you want to do. No, I'm in control. This is my traffic stop.
If he was pulling a gun out there, he already had to drop on her. He could have got it because he wasn't ready for that. So it doesn't matter if she's a female or a male officer. That officer wasn't ready for that. If he were to pull out a gun at that moment, he would have had to drop on her and she would have been done. You know what I'm saying? That's the first red flag.
Right.
Second red flag, right, is when she tells him to sit down on the ground. Yes. Now, folks, you might ask the question, well, why would she want him to sit down on the ground? You see what I'm saying? Because he already shown a level of she doesn't have control over him. So she wants him to sit down on the ground so she can regain physical control over this driver. She don't know what his demeanor is like at that moment, clearly anyway. And sitting on the ground is another form of physical control, okay, over you. Well, that's red flag number 2 when he refused to do that.
Right. And then he goes and shows his aggressive side when he goes and puts his hand in her face, talking about, hey, I'm, because at that point, I think she said, put your hands behind your back or get on or lean up against the car or whatever. No, he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'd have snatched your fingers off you right there at that point. We would have went hands on, because at that point, you already know you always have to have the upper hand. You got to be warmed up as an officer. And so when you see officers react quickly like that, it's to gain control of the situation, because we're supposed to be warmed up. That's why we had the tools around our belt to be warmed up on the individual that's giving us a hard time. Katrina asked a really good question a few moments ago. She said that if we were involved in something where we would like help from other citizens, absolutely. So my story, a few years ago, I was on my way home. I was working evening shift, I think it was, which for us was 2 in the afternoon to 10 o'clock at night. And on my way home on Route 58 westbound, um, which one was this? Oh, the guy gets out the car, and it was supposed to be just, hey, slow your butt down and go on about your business. It was just a warning. Well, I had a rule, Katrina, where 5 minutes, or actually, I'm sorry, an hour before the end of my shift, I don't do anything, like unless I get a call. So I'm going home, and this guy flies past me soon. He's getting. I was like, God, dog, how do you not see me? I get it. It's dark.
Hey, goat,
And,
I see.
hey, goat. And so I go to say I'm going to give you a warning and send you on your way. I'm going home. So I get him stopped. It was wrong right off the jump. I started talking to him, everything. So at this point, I go back to the car, call it in. He takes out the car and takes off running. I am had to jump out my car and chase after him. Now, as I'm running after him, guess what I lose, Mike?
Your radio.
I lost my radio. I lost my radio. Now,
of course.
On this part of the road, this part of the highway is in swamp area. It's going through a swamp. So it's dark. And it's a 3-lane highway. Well, this idiot runs in the 3rd lane. I end up catching up to him, tackling him, and we end up started fighting in the 3rd lane. So as we're fighting in the road, vehicles just shoom, 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 and we're fighting. And I managed to get his left arm in handcuffs and started to jerk it up. And I'm cursing. Is my mom on here tonight? I don't think she is. So I'm cursing. Then give me your MF and arm, or I'm gonna break it. And yeah, and that's the thing too, Mike. When you're in these fights, a lot of people, well, that's not, you weren't taught that technique. And look, I don't give a crap.
A fight
I'm
is a
fighting
fight
for my life.
Right.
He lucky I ain't have a brick. I'd have hit him in the head with the brick.
And you're on your own. You're a lone officer on your own in the dark on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Okay. Trying to subdue somebody by
Right.
yourself.
So he's not giving me his right arm. And I'm like, God, dog, why can't I get this dude's arm? Like, so every time I would go try to pull his arm out, I'm scraping up the back of my hand. I'm like, well, I can't do that. So I punch him in the back of his head with my right arm, smashing his head into the pavement. So I don't know where this guy was coming from, the eastbound side of the highway through the tree line. Somebody sees me fighting. So this young guy, he flips back around and comes back to him. He's like, hey, trooper, you need help. You need help. I said,
Random citizen.
Just random citizen. And I said, yeah, step on his F neck. He said, what? I said, step on his effing neck. He said, okay. And so he leans down and puts his knee on his neck. And it gave me leverage enough to get his arm out and get him in cuffs. And so by the time that was over, I said thanks. And I never got his name or anything like that, because at that time he got in his car and was gone. But I was very appreciative of him stopping it. And it bugs me, Mike, and Katrina, because I sit here and think sometimes, and this was about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. And I still think about it at times. So I'm like, man, nobody stopped. I'm like, people just
kept going.
Just kept going. Like, I'm glad he didn't have a gun. I'm glad he didn't go for my gun. You know what I mean? Because that's what I was thinking. And it was just a blessing. I mean, maybe he was my guardian angel for that night. You know what I mean? That just stopped. And maybe that's the reason why, I never really got to get a connection with him, because God sent him on. Hey, here he is. Zoom.
So you were pretty appreciative of this citizen stepping in, because had it not been for that citizen, it's a question of whether or not he would have overpowered you at some point. You see what I'm saying?
100%.
So definitely I can understand it. And folks, before you get worked up when Corey says step on his neck or put your knee in his neck, this is in the middle of a fight where he is actively fighting with Corey, right?
Yeah,
actively fighting with you.
This
So
isn't that.
you
This
need
definitely
to do
was not
whatever
a George Floyd thing. So
right, you need to do
this
whatever
is
you
totally
need
different.
to do to gain control. Once you have control, once he's
Right.
cuffed, then you can tone it back. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But a fight is a fight. When you're in the middle of a fight, you got to do what you got to do to get control of that suspect. Period. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, Corey.
It's a wow factor, if you will, because when I think about it, that's all I can think of is like, wow, well, what if he didn't stop? How would it have turned out? Right.
Yeah,
and you got to look at it in this officer. And I'm pretty confident that she's probably thinking the same thing. You know, what if this guy didn't intervene here? You know, this guy overpowers her and takes her weapon and shoots her, because you don't know what his mindset is, right? All you know is he's very aggressive, and I'm pretty sure that, you know, even though he was 64 years old, she probably might have been matched him evenly strength wise, but we don't know. I mean,
don't let the age fool you. Don't let the sex fool you either, female or male.
Right.
Don't let that fool you. Good question, Tone. You know, sometimes we get lucky, and yeah, officers we're expected to be in some kind of decent shape. Obviously, you might get into a fight with all your stuff on, and you might have to either last until you get cover units there, or you might have to be in a position where you must take over, or that's your life. So that's a good question, Tone. I know there are a lot of officers who walk around on the job that are out of shape. Don't think they don't know that they're out of shape. They know, and they know they ain't supposed to be that way, because your life can depend on it. You know what I'm saying? Not every agency requires their officers to do a physical fitness test every year, or even allow their officers to work out on duty or anything like that. Not every agency is like that. Okay. But yes, you should be in physical shape, you know, doing that job, because yes, literally your life can depend on it.
Oh,
you know?
100%.
Now for me, my story is, you know, also turned out good, and it got to the point where I was all by myself, and I had a security guard who came on the scene but didn't quite jump in right away. I was at a mental health institute taking a patient who had to be booked into the jail. And so out here in California, the mental health institute is a distance away from the jail. So when someone was arrested and they become suicidal or something along those lines, they get taken to the mental health facility first and held there and treated for their mental health issues first. And then once that treatment is over, it was common practice for them to call the police department and have a police officer come up and take them from the mental health facility as they're being checked out, and then be booked into jail for the crime that they were originally arrested for. So that's what I was doing, is going to the mental health agency, picking up this was a female patient, and she was going to be booked into the county jail. So they bring her down to me, and I'm not sure if she knew what was going on or not. Okay, she had been treated for mental health illnesses and was ready to be released. And so when I got there, you know, they release her to me, and while we're still in the lobby area, I tell her, okay, go ahead and put your hands behind your back. I'm going to put these cuffs on you. Well, that's when it went south. She decided to not want to put cuffs on her. So I go to grab her wrist to try to put cuffs on her, and she was pretty strong. Like I say, this is where I tell you, don't let the sex fool you. Some females are just as strong as dudes, if not as stronger. Okay. So she snatched away and the fight was on. I had to put her in a rear wrist lock and we end up going to the ground. It was a quick little wrestling match there once again for me to get her hands behind her back. Well, you had a security guard who came in there and he saw what was going on, but I think for some reason he didn't want to get involved at that point. He didn't want to help me, but I think maybe because I was close to already getting the cuffs on her, I managed to get those cuffs on her, and then she stopped. Once she was handcuffed, she stopped fighting. Okay, and we were able to get her up. That's when the security guard jumped in and helped me lift her up off the ground and take her to the patrol car. But
so he got involved after the fact.
But fortunately, I successfully was cuffed her after the struggle and successfully got her to the jail, where she gave the jail problems, so she didn't want to go with that program either. But that's another story. Anyway, to answer your question, Katrina, if a citizen decide to come in and help me after they see me losing the fight, okay, obviously I'm losing the fight, I'm getting overpowered, I encourage that citizen. I tell you what, as an officer, I am not going to complain if an average citizen comes in and decides to assist me. If I'm on my last breath, on my last string, and I'm getting ready to be taken over, I'd be much appreciative of that citizen coming in and helping me. You know 100%, what I'm saying? 100%. Now, that being said, though, Corey, a lot of people don't know you need to check the laws in your state. A lot of states, it's actually a misdemeanor crime for you not to assist the police when they are telling you to assist them, even in a confrontation like that. You want to check the laws in your state. A lot of states have those laws. California used to have that law where it was a misdemeanor or you had to pay a fine or something like that. It was a law. It was a crime, basically, to refuse to assist an officer who he or she requested you do so. That was including apprehending a suspect or handcuffing someone or physically apprehending someone. It used to be a crime in California. That law was repealed. It is no longer a crime for citizens to not get involved. But
I would say this, 99.9% of officers out there will probably be highly appreciative of citizens if they did get involved, especially if that officer was having a hard time with that individual. I was always appreciative of any citizen who stopped to help me, especially when it was involved in a really bad car crash. I mean, I've had doctors just getting off the shift from the ER will stop and say, hey, they'll come up and say, hey, troop, I'm a doctor. Can I help? And I will say I did apologize to this one gentleman. I was in a pursuit one time, ended in a crash, and the guy got out and took off running. I went out, got him, tackled him. We ended up fighting, struggling, and then another citizen came up and asked, could he help me? And I told him to get the F away from me. And I apologize for that. And really made me feel bad was that he was a retired sheriff, deputy. And I was like, and afterwards, I totally apologize. The thing is, when you get in that moment, right? This dude just took me on a freaking 5-mile pursuit through the city and on the highway, and then gets back off the interstate and then crashes a vehicle, T-bones another vehicle, and then takes off running. I'm pretty pissed off, right? And I didn't want anybody else involved in that. But I think majority of citizens would help. And but again, we're not encouraging you to do. There's something that you yourself have to know one within your heart, or because you don't want to get yourself hurt too. You don't want to get caught up. I know you're thinking about liability and things of that nature too. So just use your own judgment on that, because like I said in the beginning of the show, Mike, we used to get asked that all the time. If a citizen could help in certain situations, by all means, if you've seen me on the verge of losing control, please, by all means, step in.
Yeah,
I would be. I wouldn't be, as long as you wouldn't doing anything like you're not punching that guy, you're not trying to stab that guy while you're just grabbing an arm or a leg to try to help subdue him or her. That's totally fine. You're not going to be held on any type of liability or something like that. But don't go in there and try to be an MMA type person and put them in a chokehold and and you end up killing them. Well, then guess what? You're going to jail.
You don't want to do that,
right?
It's it's kind of odd, maybe for some people, to hear officers say they appreciate help from citizens in certain situations, because usually an officer is saying, "You stay out of it, stay back." You know what I'm saying? Usually that's what people commonly hear, and that is common. If I'm dealing with someone and I think that your interaction and involving yourself in this dealing that I'm having with this person is going to make it worse, then yes, by all means, I'm going to tell you to stand back, stay over there, record all you want. Okay. Just don't get involved. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel that that person is going to make this situation even worse for me to try to get in control of. What we're talking about, folks, is when you have, like this situation, a lone officer in a fight with someone who he or she is being overpowered, and she all by herself and no cover unit in sight to help her, and you see that, man, she about to lose this fight real quick. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure she would be very appreciative as the officer in that situation, or any male or female, for a citizen to go and help. Okay. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, if I don't tell you to stand back, that means I need you over here to help me. You see what I'm saying? If I'm fighting with somebody and I see you coming over getting involved, if I don't tell you to stand back, then I'm in agreement with you helping me out. You know what I'm saying? Now,
so
go ahead, Corey.
My question to our viewers is what would you guys do? Would you, if you seen an officer in distress, would you assist them? Would you help? I'd like to know what you all think about that. If that were you and you saw that female officer in that situation, would you have stopped yourself to help? Katrina says absolutely.
Jump
in for sure. I mean, if it's just, to outpower him to overthrow so she could get control, absolutely. I can say I think most citizens would.
Stacee I don't know. Yeah. I don't know about that, Corey. I don't know.
I'm pretty confident, man. I mean, because just the two I described, right? And here's the thing. Right, in both incidents that I was involved in, they were well. The retired sheriff was an older black male, and this young kid that came to help me on the side of the road was a young black male. And so I'm very confident in our citizens that the majority of them would stop and help. I'm pretty confident in that. And also not only because being in the situation, being in a fight, just when you're involved with working crashes and things like that. I mean, I've had citizens help me carry the injured people, get them out of the vehicle and help me carry them up the bank to get them back up on the road. I mean, people are there's good people in America, man, and I saw a lot of that when I had that uniform on out here on the highways and byways working, Mike, and I'm pretty confident majority of people will. I mean, Goat says he would, Tone says he would, Stacee says she would, Katrina says she would. I mean,
I hear you, but as well as I do, there may be some areas where they actually get a kick out of watching the officer being defeated.
Well, it depends on where you are.
Yeah,
You're
depends on where
absolutely
you are.
right.
But there are
It
people
depends
out
on where
there,
you are.
unfortunately, there are people out there who will stand and record that incident, and they will literally stand there and watch that female lose that fight. And the only time they may even take any action is if the guy turned around and shot the officer or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then their action would be to call in a 911 or something like that. You see what I'm saying? Now it is a catch-22. You know what I'm saying? And I agree with you. There are definitely good people in this country who would do something, and they would step in if they see that this situation, that physically this officer is getting ready to be either killed or overpowered or something. You know what I'm saying? But you sit as a citizen, you got to make up your own mind, and you have to recognize that type of situation if you feel that you would jump in. Are you putting yourself at risk by jumping in? Well, sure. You're jumping into a fight. Yeah, you're putting yourself at risk. You see what I'm saying? So you got to make up your mind to see. It's just the same as it's the same kind of decision or choice you would have to make as if you are outside a theater and you hear an active shooter inside and you happen to be a concealed carry weapons holder. And are you going to go in there and take it upon yourself to stop that shooter from doing a mass shooting inside? Some people may not be able to do that, right? I would like to think if you were a concealed carry weapons holder, you definitely are the type of person that would go in and do that, right? But you'd be surprised. There are some people who are not built like that. They're not built to go in and take that kind of action. You know what I'm saying? So you got to look within yourself, folks, to see if that is something that you would do. Just like everybody ain't built to be no police officer. You see what I'm saying? You got to be a certain type of person to do that job. And it is not someone who is timid and non-authoritative who is afraid to get involved. You see what I'm saying? But it is something to consider. And again, check your laws in your state. Ohio is one of those states that it's actually a misdemeanor not to assist the police officer. Okay, that way. Okay. There are some states where they have wording like you must assist unless there is a significant risk to your physical safety. There are some that say that. Throw those words in there. But check with your states, folks, where you live, and see what that law is. Out in California, it was Penal Code 142. That was the law where you had to go in and you had to assist an officer if he or she orders you to. That is no longer the case in California. That's been repealed in 2019, I think it was. Not that long ago, right? Mm-hmm. But check, folks, with your state, the individual laws. We definitely don't want to tell you to do something or not do something that we're going to get you into trouble for. But,
yeah, definitely check your law. And then, like you said, Mike, know your limitations.
That's the right words, true words, right there.
You know your limitations of what you can and cannot do as a citizen. If your family is with you, that's something else you need to take in consideration. Would you get involved and risk your family getting hurt? So, and if you didn't help, I mean, nobody's going to look down upon you, especially the law enforcement officers not going to look down upon you because you didn't help. Don't beat yourself up over it. If you had opportunity to help and you didn't, it is what it is. You knew your limitations. That was your limit. You hesitated. It wasn't meant for you to get involved. So don't beat yourself up over if you've seen an opportunity to get involved and then take action. So don't beat yourself up. Again, it's important to know the laws. There's no code section here for Virginia. For citizens to get involved. I mean, we do have the Good Samaritan thing, but that's more so involved in crashes, and that where you can't be held liable for pulling somebody out of a burning car or something like that, and and they were fine, but then you pulled them out and they end up being paralyzed or whatever. So there are those type of good Samaritan laws that are built in there. But again, you know your limitations, right? On whether you can take action or not. So, but she did well. I mean, I'm glad those citizens were there, and you seen all the vehicles that stopped to assist her. I mean, they were stopped line up, but only a couple got out. See, more what get involved once they see that one person take the first step, the initiative to take action, then everybody else will follow suit, and that's what you had here. And they just, more bodies on, more hands on, gain control, allow the officer to gain control back in the situation, and that's all you're trying to do. You're not trying to beat the guy up and throw elbows on him and things like that. You just want to grab an arm, grab a leg to kind of allow that officer to regain control, and that's it. And you back off, and everybody went on their merry way. I think it was a good stop.
Yeah, I think it was a good stop. She did what she needed to do, and I don't have any problems in this situation with these citizens jumping in to help her. And this particular, like I say, I don't know if he would have fought with her like that if she was a male. I hate to say that, but you gotta look at what's probably true, and he may have been confrontational.
If that guy was his height and 300 pounds, he might have still tried him because he figured, he can't do nothing to me because he's 300 pounds.
Yeah.
So the criminals are sizing up the law enforcement officers to know if they can and cannot get away with trying to fight that officer. So he saw an opportunity.
A real criminals are soon as you stop them, they sizing you up. They're considering avenues of escape. They're considering, can I run from this guy? Can I fight this guy and win? Can I, what do I do with my gun or my drugs or my illegal substances here?
And
tell all that stuff.
And tell them that's the main reason why officers need to be in shape. That's why, even in the military, I used to say, the appearance is everything. It's 90% of how you look. The other 10% is what comes out your mouth, right? So if you're squared away, you could be the most jacked up worker in the military, but if your uniform was squared away, nobody messed with you. Right? Nobody knew that you were just if you're
a knucklehead.
You know what I mean? You were a knucklehead. But doggone, that joker got a squared away uniform. Same thing in law enforcement.
Right? Boots shine, brass shine. So he's good.
Same thing as a police officer. If you looking like that poster police officer, slim, sharp uniform, crisp, pressed, look like, the dude just walked out of the poster, right? You look like that, and that's why for us, having that campaign hat on, our department was so anal about that campaign hat, as being a deterrent. See, that appearance is that deterrent. We talked about that week before last, and in one of our videos, and that's the first thing is your appearance, right? That's displaying that authority, that uniform.
That's right. Establishes command presence there.
Establishes command presence before the officer even opens his mouth. You already should know, man, that dude got a shot. Okay, he squared away. That means he got his stuff together. I may not want to try him before they even open their mouth. So, did this guy see that? I don't know. Did he see a height advantage? Because she wasn't that tall. He was much taller than her. So maybe he saw that as his advantage, right?
And keep in mind, I think when people, another misconception, I think, is when you first become an officer, you are not out of shape. All rookie cops are in the best shape of their life. Best shape of your life for some years in the beginning of your career. It's towards the end of your career that you start going south.
Yeah.
It's towards the end of your career that you start going south. So
Yes, sir.
you know, if you see that young guy and he gonna be in shape, he and she is gonna be in the gym regularly. They're gonna be a fresh out. They ready to get it on. We all like that in the beginning of a career. And the first, I would say, first 10 years of your career, we all good. You know what I'm saying? So don't think that they officers start off their careers all fat and out of shape. That's not the case. Guarantee all them overweight, heavy officers you see now, they are north of 35, north of 40. Okay. Yeah. And they ain't fat, they fat and out of shape, probably. They shouldn't be. They know they shouldn't be. Okay,
that's right. Jesus love you from major pain to fat out.
You're doing too much there. Jesus loves you from major pain to fat out. That's exactly right.
That's right. That's 100%.
I tell you. And you know what? If we're gonna be honest up here, Corey, I'm just as guilty as that later on in my career too, of not staying in the best shape. And that's something that you constantly got to work on. You know what I'm saying? And the older you get, the harder it is. See, in the military, it was different because you were forced to do it. You were forced to have exercise and physical fitness training on a regular basis. That was part of your work day. I think they need to get back to that in police work, obviously. Now, I know we're getting off. That's a whole nother conversation from Major Payne to Fat Albert. That's a whole nother conversation, whole nother show. Okay. But yes,
it's vital. It's vital to the officer survival when you get into these situations, right? Again, it starts with the appearance of being that poster image of an officer. So it's important.
It's important.
Your life be in might shape, depend to be able to handle yourself. And that's the thing, you're going. It's going to happen as law enforcement, and I never. I did let my guard down, especially when I was dealing with older citizens. But that doesn't exclude them from wanting to bring harm to you. We don't know their state of mind as well. They could be suffering for something and have that gun on them and pull it out and shoot you. So age does not matter.
I'm still laughing at Major Payne the Fat Albert.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
That was a good one.
But you have to keep your guard up. You have to keep your guard up. You have to keep your head on a swivel, because at any moment, and that's why I even though I'm not in law enforcement anymore, every time I hear a routine traffic stop, it just boils my blood, because you don't know what you're getting or who you're stopping at any time, right?
That's right.
Because I know Mike, you stop somebody, it seems cool when you make your first initial contact, then you go back to your car, you write your tickets up, you come back to the car and they totally flip the script like, yo, what just happened? And next thing you know, you're going hands-on. You're pulling people out the window of the car. Because that's one thing I didn't tolerate. I will snatch you out the car. But Trooper Taylor got you out the car if needed. You were coming through the window or you were coming out the door by opening the door. But one way or another,
if you got to come out the car, you got to come out the car. We would rather you step out the car nice and easily upon request. We would love for you to step out of the car that way upon request, but you got to get out of the car one way or another. But since just to bring it back around the circle, you got to decide if you are that type of citizen that's going to try to help and get involved when you see an officer being overtaken or being overpowered. Keep in mind a lot of things that officer could be on the verge of losing his or her life. You know what I'm saying? Or something like that. You see what I'm saying? So you got to look within yourself and see if that is something that you would be able to do. The officers in that situation, if I was being overpowered like that, I would be appreciative of some assistance, even from a citizen, you know. And yes, like we said, Corey, you are putting yourself in some kind of physical danger, right? So consider that. That's all.
Consider that, and like I said, know your limits. So, well, folks, we're coming up to the hour, so we hope you found some value in this video, this show tonight that we did. If you're new, please go ahead and hit that like button. If you're over on Facebook, if you're on watching us on YouTube, hit that like button, that share button, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching us over on YouTube, there is no subscribe button on Facebook. I don't think. No, there's not. But just like our Facebook page. So we thank all of y'all for joining us tonight.
Jesus
We'll
love
be
you,
back
go
next week with
Katrina, Tom, Mrs. Taylor. I see you, Mrs. Taylor. We got them all on there. Appreciate y'all coming out and checking us out.
Yep. So check us out next week, same time, 8:10, and we'll be ready to rock and roll with another one. Mike, final words.
Nah, that's it. Everybody have a safe weekend, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. We love y'all.
Peace out.
Peace.